Gerad Parker is expected to be the new offensive coordinator for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And this hire itself, if you were to silo it, isn't super surprising. It's not a super eyebrow-raising hire. You say, okay, that's great. Went internally, went with someone Marcus Freeman trusts. You keep continuity of culture. You think continuity in direction of the offense. But there's much more to this hire. There is much more that goes along with this, which is why some Notre Dame fans read this headline and just felt a little bit disgruntled. Let's set the table a little bit. For those of you that have been keeping track, Andy Ludwig was seen at a hockey game with Marcus Freeman. Now, Andy Ludwig was and still is the offensive coordinator for the University of Utah. And anytime you're seen with a potential candidate or prospective hire for a certain position in a very public setting, that lets everybody know unofficially, hey, we have got our guy. And we feel good enough about potentially hiring this guy. We feel good about this deal getting done, that we feel good about being in a public setting where everybody can see us. Okay, you're all reading between the lines here. Well, as that story wears on, there was a buyout involved with Andy Ludwig that Notre Dame knew about, right around $2.8 million. And there's a great article out right now on The Athletic where it talks about Notre Dame knowing about that buyout, but hoping and believing they could negotiate with Utah. Now, Utah, it's hard to blame them. They're like, hey, we got a good OC, and you're going to have to come pay full price if you want to take him from us. So Notre Dame, as the story goes, sort of cooled it a little bit, sort of bowed out of contention to land Andy Ludwig. Now, that's frustrating. It's very frustrating for Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan because essentially that sends the message, hey, you don't care enough, if you're the administration, about our football program, about our product, about supporting Marcus Freeman enough to go and get him the OC that he desires. That's attainable. And here's the other piece of that. Everybody that you're competing with on the national landscape, if your goal is to win national championships and to compete for the college football playoff and do phenomenal things on a national landscape, I promise you, they're willing to make that buyout to get their OC. They're willing to invest what they need to invest to get their coaches, to get their staff situated. College football is very much so about more than just recruiting. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's not just about getting the best players on campus. That's a huge part of it, but you got to be willing to support your program from a resources standpoint as well. And for Notre Dame, refusing to do this, again, it just goes back to that narrative. Do you care enough? It's cool to care. It's cool to say that we want to win national titles. We have this tradition, this prestige. It's cool. But will you put your money where your mouth is? You can only measure the value of something, the value that someone places on something, by the level of inconvenience they're willing to endure to support it. So I got more thoughts on this, but if you have not yet subscribed, we've had a ton of y'all join the party recently, tons of new listeners on podcast, both on Apple and Spotify, tons of new watchers on YouTube. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. If you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and lock it in, join the party, give us your verbal commitment. We'd love to have you a part of this. Now, I don't think that Notre Dame offensively is in a bad spot with Gerad Parker. Like, to me, 2023 can be very, very much so fine, which is maybe sort of a tough thing to hear right now. The word's fine when you got Sam Hartman coming in, you got all the pieces coming back in your backfield, you got an offensive line that's tooled up and ready to go. But you can be fine in 2023 for reasons that I just said. There's a ton of talent. I don't think that there is going to be a total change in philosophy offensively. Still going to be physical, still going to try and put players in position to succeed from a playmaking standpoint, and you still have a very proven, perhaps one of the most proven commodities at quarterback in a long time for Notre Dame in Sam Hartman as he's transferred in to South Bend. So 2023 is going to be fine. Like, I think you can still accomplish all that you want to accomplish. It's not like Gerad Parker is just taking the sticks over as an offensive coordinator. He's never done it before. He's had play calling experience before. This is not his first time in the saddle. And whether it's, I don't know if I want to say true, depending on how much you want to read into reports about how his interview went, it sounds like he crushed the interview process. Now, he was the third choice behind Colin Klein and Andy Ludwig, so take of that as you will. But when it comes to sitting down, having a conversation with the head coach, having that interview, passed with flying colors, is the report. Now, would you have heard differently If that wasn't the case, I have a hard time believing that. But if we're going to take Coach Freeman and we're going to take the press at their word, we'll roll with that. Also, you hired Gino Guidugli as your quarterback's coach. And the silver lining here for me is he coached Desmond Ridder at Cincinnati. Desmond Ridder came to Cincinnati as a 3-star recruit and is now obviously an NFL quarterback. So there's some pieces here along with this staff, with Gerad Parker, that could allow you to be successful. Again, 2023 is not my concern. Notre Dame, to me, will look very similar to how they did last year from a direction standpoint. The play calling may look different a little bit. The scheme may look minutely different. I don't expect a ton of change, but the direction of the offense with we're going to be physical, we're going to let our quarterback deal it because we have a proven quarterback. Like, I think that's going to be the flavor that you expected before Gerad Parker got the sticks. It's the expectation you can have now with him, again, reportedly being set to become your offensive coordinator. So here's the bigger issue, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we have to talk about this. Marcus Freeman, before last year, had never been a head coach before. He's not even 40 years old. At Notre Dame, my concern is that we won't ever get to have an accurate perception of what he can be as a head coach. Because how many of you know this? As a head coach, you can recruit your tail off and you can coach with the best of them from an X's and O's standpoint. But if you don't have the support from your school to assemble your staff, it's all for naught. A head coach is a face of a program. He's a CEO. He manages the whole operation. But your staff is where the X's and O's, where the coaching gets done. That's what the great programs have. We just saw Todd Monken leave Georgia, and we saw what he did for that offense at Georgia. And Kirby Smart's incredible. Kirby Smart is one of the best in the game right now if we're going to take the sample size of the last 2 years. But without Todd Monken, I don't know if they go back-to-back. Again, that's a whole other conversation. But I'm saying that to emphasize that your staff as a head coach really is what allows you to be successful. And for Notre Dame, if you want to find out the kind of coach that Marcus Freeman can be, you got to support him. I said the same thing on a previous video. I can't give you ground beef and then expect you to come back with a ribeye. I can't expect Marcus Freeman to go and win national titles and give him his third choice OC. Okay? That can't be the world we're living in if we're Marcus Freeman and we're Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans. So Gerad Parker, again, is expected to be the next OC in South Bend. I think 2023, you're fine. The precedent this sets for me, though, for Marcus Freeman going forward, I'm concerned a little bit. If this is how we're going to treat our first OC hire, what's it going to look like when I need more resources for something else in the future? I'm concerned, but 2023, I think it's fair to be optimistic. So again, Gerad Parker set to call plays Notre Dame in 2023.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.